Hey everyone, so I want to talk about some pros and cons of going topless on your fish tanks. That of course means having no hood on your fish tank. Here, like I have on this is a 10-gallon tank, by the way. So we're gonna start off with the pros, then we'll go to the cons here. So first pro is that it is just that much easier to do work inside of your tank. So you don't have to take off a hood every time you want to do something in your tank. So such as do water changes, try and catch some fish for whatever reason, move decorations around, add in decorations, add in plants, anything like that. It just makes it that much easier. Then you don't have to find somewhere to put that hood as well as you're doing work inside your tank. Next will be you can add in different types of lights. So without a hood, you can have clip-on lights or hanging lights, stuff like that. So my 10-gallon here, I actually have the aquarium LED planted light. So this just clips onto the back. If I had a hood like these, like a normal hood where there is no spot for a clip, I couldn't do it. And then also too, of course, the hood itself would block all of the light. But of course, on the other side of that is hoods do have lights built into them. But you can get a little bit nicer light by not having one that's built into a hood already. Usually the ones that are built into hoods are not as good for growing plants, live plants, and stuff like that as a clip-on or a hanging light would be. So it gives you a bit more better light opportunities, I guess. Next will be it will increase your humidity inside your room. So my room humidity is usually around 20-30% until I had this tank set up. Took off the top. Now my humidity in my room is about 40-50%, which they say is pretty much ideal for sleeping. So to me that is a big pro. It just lets me sleep that much better, and then just gives you that much more humidity. Whereas if you have the hood on it, it just doesn't. It still increases your room humidity, just not by as much as without a hood on your tank. So even with 4 or 5 tanks in my room, all that had hoods on them, my humidity in my room was still around 30%. Again, when I took off the hood on this one, again 10-gallon tank, it has increased my humidity by up to around 40-50% instead of that around 30% humidity. So I find that just being a really cool perk. Next, this is kind of maybe more of my own idea. Not everyone will agree with this one, of course, but I think it just gives it a bit more of a clean look to it without that hood bulging off of your tank. Just a bit more of a smooth, clean look without a hood. Next is there's no lid condensation. And I am talking about this. You see all the water on top of my lid, my hood here, or the bottom of it. So that happens especially when your room is colder than the water is in your tank. You get that condensation going on. And then that means whenever you take off this hood, or the hood, that condensation goes all over the place and gets everything wet that you don't want to be getting wet, which is a little bit annoying. Well, actually, it can be very annoying if you have papers or something next to your tank and you do that and then you get your papers ruined. So without a hood, of course, you do not have that condensation that gets all over the place when you take off the hood. And my final pro here is it gives you a different perspective into your tank. So normally with a hood, you can look into your tank from the side or the front, normally from the front, and you get a side perspective of your fish and your fish tanks and whatever else you might have in there. Without a hood, you get a top perspective as well, so you can see everything from a top view, a bird's eye view, if you will. To me, it just gives you a really cool, different perspective into your aquarium, so you can see down into it instead of just from the side. I find it to be very cool. Next, let's go into a few cons here. So first one is because you have no hood, your inhabitants can jump out. If you have fish that are known jumpers such as betas, they might actually jump out of your tank, which is not a good thing. In the past, I've had betas jump out of tanks that had no top on them, and then you find them too late. They are dried and dead, which is very unfortunate. So if you do this type of design, make sure your fish are not jumpers. You do not want to find a dried up fish. There's nothing worse than that. Next is the evaporation. So you can see how much water I do not have in the tank right now. That is from about 3 or 4 days of evaporation. So I filled this tank up to pretty much as high as I could get it without making it leak. And this is how much is gone for about 3 or 4 days ago. And this is how much has already left from evaporation. Sorry, I keep on trying to say condensation. Evaporation. So it does evaporate quite quickly. And you can see in these smaller tanks, around 2.5 gallons, how much has evaporated as well. And see, it's nowhere near as much. Actually, it's almost nothing. This one's a tiny bit, and this one's almost nothing whatsoever. So with a hood on, the evaporation rate is quite lower. And next is partly due to the evaporation rate, and partly due to having no hood at all to help sound stay inside the tank, I guess. It is a little bit noisier with your filter, so it gives you a bit more of that waterfall sound effect, especially as your water evaporates more and your water level gets lower. You just get that much more noise coming from your filter. So I'll let you guys listen. So with a hood on, again, the evaporation rate is just lower, which in turn means that the water just from the filter doesn't make as much noise. And then too, with the hood on, it helps kind of soundproof it just that much more as well. So what I'm trying to say for this one is it's just a bit noisier without a hood. And then the last thing, which is kind of minor, but is it kind of sprinkles water all over the place. So when you do have the water level up all the way, probably hood to keep in the water sprinkles. The sprinkles goes everywhere, so you know the water from the filter hits the water surface, and that kind of creates this, I'm just gonna call it a water sprinkler effect, which kind of goes outside of your tank and stuff like that. So if you have something next to your tank like papers and maybe a wall or something, they might get a little bit wet from the water sprinkler effect of the filter. Yeah, so that is some pros and cons of having a topless tank, so a tank without a hood on it. If you guys can think of more, do leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think about this type of design on an aquarium. And thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you guys have a good one. See y'all next time. Goodbye.